Hello. There we
Hello,
are.
hello. Right on, man. Well, thanks for doing this.
Yeah.
Our podcast is about your journey in music and how you got to where you are now. So why don't you tell me about where you were born and raised?
Well, I'm currently in Harrison Hot Springs, British Columbia, Canada. I was
Okay.
born or raised here, but I was born and raised in Alberta, Canada. Spent some time in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Went down to California for a bit, lived in Victoria, BC for a bit. Now I live in Seattle, Washington, but I am Canadian.
Right on, right on. How did you get into music?
I'd I played hockey till I was about 16, and then I picked up a guitar after that, and sort of traded the stick in for the instrument.
Right on, right on. What was the reasoning behind that? Were you just over hockey as far as or playing, or?
It was just something different. I grew up in a really small town,
Mhm.
which was I've been watching the television series Friday Night Lights
Oh,
recently.
sure. Okay.
It's all about small town in Texas, which is obsessed with football.
Football, right.
I felt like that was my town, except it was obsessed with like
Hockey.
hockey and volleyball, to be obscure. Um, it was this hockey volleyball town, and then I just got a little bit I got a little bit distracted, and I thought, well, when I graduate this high school, I need a different look and something else to do, I think. So I just got kind of intrigued by the whole music thing because it was so different than kind of my regular life. Yeah.
Sure, sure. And with that, like with the guitar, did you start writing music right away? Or were you just learning cover songs? Like, how did your kind of journey begin?
I actually played drums as my first instrument, and
Oh, okay.
I kind of did that. The bad kids from school, they were like, "Hey, do you want to play some Blink 182 covers?" And I was like,
Rebels, rebels, dude.
and the little grade 8 kid, that was me, was like, "Heck yes!" And started by playing
They're like, whoa, watch the language.
yeah, I didn't have to watch my language then. But yeah, we started playing Blink 182 covers from the album Dude Ranch, which was one of the early ones.
Right, yeah, the second record.
Yeah.
I'm from San Diego, dude. I could
Oh,
throw
yeah.
a rock and hit that's like right where the dudes in Blink grew up. At least the original three guys.
Yes.
Yes, and that's Blink right here. An old Blink picture.
I love this. Well, I actually, so I started playing, I had these fast drum beats, and then fast forward probably, 10 years or so. And when I got some musical chops and started making records and stuff, I actually have a bunch of friends down, kind of in the North County, San Diego.
Uh huh.
They're in, the Solana Beach area.
Sure, Anthony. That's where Mr. DeLong resides.
And so then I found myself out at Big Fish Studios, which is like
Okay.
somewhere around there, and that is where Blink 182 recorded. What's the album after Dude Ranch? I have not thought of this in a while.
They recorded Dude Ranch there.
They were going to Dude Ranch, yeah, and then the next one that was even more popular.
Enema of the State, that was done there too.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it was. Because no, what's funny about that is Scott Rayner, the original drummer for Blink,
Yeah.
drummed the whole record. And then when they kicked him out of the band, Travis Barker had to go in and he redid the drums.
Yeah.
So if you hear, it's funny because in American Pie, the first American Pie movie,
Yeah.
Blink is in it. They're when the girls in the scene in their the webcam, they're watching it. And if you look at the credits, they credit Scott Rayner because he was supposed to be in the movie, but it became Travis.
Yeah.
And the song they use, I can't remember. They use one of the songs from End of the State on the record or in the movie, and it's the version with Scott Rayner and the drums. So it sounds totally different because his beat was Travis Barker is just the best drummer ever, right? So it's just totally a different sound. And I heard he doesn't even really Rayner is making the money from the End of the State record, which is crazy because he played the original drums on it.
Yeah, maybe he's a songwriter on it or something too.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
I never know how that always works out. But yeah, that so Big Fish Studios was I recorded, I had a few random recording sessions there just because some of my friends were connected with that. And we had this engineer friend, Austin Burns, who's kind of total Encinitas, like blonde hair, like
Sure.
ocean.
Has a Subaru and a board
Oh,
rack on the top.
totally, he does. And then he'd like rip over to the studio and engineer the studio after like he was done kind of his surfing over there. So
Uh,
I'm telling you, I'm from a small town like Friday Night Lights, but a hockey town in Alberta. But then I've hung out in North County, San Diego.
that's
You know,
so cool.
so, yeah.
That's awesome. So originally from there, but how, like you said, started playing drums first, and then you went to the guitar. When you picked the guitar, is that when you started writing songs?
Yeah, I think I like always had, always was kind of like wanted to make stuff, or kind of was like, always driving the boat on things. And I think I actually got bored of playing, in this like kind of like punky band.
The Blink
Yeah,
band, where you're playing drums, right?
I was playing drums, yeah. And I think I just wanted to like do more stuff, or like write more. And actually I really liked it. I was just like, guys, let's do something, like let's do more.
Right, right.
They were kind of just like smoking too much weed or whatever. So, and I didn't partake in that. So I sort of just like picked up the guitar and started kind of writing and putting my own stuff together.
Mhm.
And I think that's one part I love about music, is just kind of like I love every part of it. And I think that's how I kind of got into songwriting, was that I just kind of wanted to like keep keep doing this thing. And I was kind of like frustrated when you couldn't keep doing it. So I sort of started to do kind of my own thing. Then shortly after that. Yeah.
That's when you started really putting music out or doing stuff on your own, and
Yeah,
just a solo.
I'd say you know, like writing songs and playing the guitar and singing. So I
Hmm.
started to like, I never sang in my life. When I was like 15 years old, I was like, I want to sing. And so I just kind of figured that out, or like I took singing lessons for like 3 months.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like, oh, like I can do this sort of. And that actually was so like, I would like to do a podcast on how did people like start singing? Because
Right.
some people probably just like do it naturally, right?
Right.
But
I'm sure there's a handful of people that just write, like, naturally can just hit notes without even
yeah,
thinking about it.
but I want to do a podcast where I interview the whole cast of Friday Night Lights and ask them when's the first memory of when they sang their first note.
That's awesome. That would be pretty good. So back to your journey. With that, like, were you 15? Were you're writing songs? Were you trying to play them out around your town, or everything kind of stayed in the bedroom?
Well, there really was nowhere to play out in the town.
Like,
um,
there's a coffee shop. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if
yeah,
where
there was
bands
like
would play.
there's like a grocery store and a meat
Oh,
market and a swimming pool and an outdoor hockey rink. So you wouldn't really say there were gigs to be had. Um,
okay.
well, there was. So I actually started. I'd play at any kind of like, I remember a battle of the bands, but I'd like put a band together or something. Or I did yeah, I remember playing at Battle of the Bands. I was like in the 10th grade, and I sort of like put this, ragtag group of friends that could play instruments together
Mhm.
from the town. And we played, the first song I ever wrote was called Hide.
Okay.
I can still like play, part of it. Um, but I don't remember all the lyrics, but I remember playing that song. And then we were third place in the Battle of the Bands.
Wow.
I was like, I was stoked that we like played a couple songs.
Right.
And then I really just sort of like, got a little like live music in my blood, and
Mhm.
kind of writing was almost for me, it was less of like I was needed to get this thing out. And so I was in my bedroom, like, and this is like 2001 or something. So it's a
Mhm.
little bit before like, everybody and their dogs like making like, beats and making
Right.
because
Everyone has a SoundCloud account at this
yeah,
point.
it's before like the personal computer, really. And so I think writing and stuff was kind of or like live music was more of a part of it, and playing stuff live and getting together in a room and like writing a song. And you didn't put me into a computer.
Right.
This is me in like the 10th grade or something like that. So I think playing live and doing that stuff was kind of, songwriting was a means to like doing that. Like you had to write a song to play. Uh,
Mhm.
so that I think really was like songwriting has. So I think what I'm trying to say, songwriting for me didn't start where I like needed to like get this thing out or like say this thing. It started in like I wanted to do, I wanted to do things with people and play music with people and have a thing to kind of like play and say, sort of.
And and from there, like obviously you said you're gathering people, friends and stuff to kind of play in bands with you. When did you just decide like I'm just gonna start doing this on my own, like so to speak? Like when did it become like a dream? Or you said you got the live music in your blood, but when did it become like your main focus? Like this is what I want to do for forever.
Yeah, well, I graduated from high school. I went to Germany for a year actually,
Oh
and
wow, like a
yeah,
study abroad type thing, or
yeah,
just
it
to
was
go?
yeah, it was totally like it was like this like 6 month like Bible school program
Okay, cool.
that I actually look on really fondly, and it was you know it was a good experience for me. Some people, those things are like, they would never talk about them, and they'd be like, it was terrible.
Right. But
But it
that's
was,
cool. You got to go to Germany. I mean,
yeah,
dope.
and
Live there for 6 months.
I was very like, yeah, I was very kind of like open. Music was new to me, right? I was like, hockey is old Mike. Music
Okay.
is new Mike.
Music is new, Mike.
And it was kind of through some of those experiences. Then I actually did go to school and like study music right after that. Cause when I
Oh.
actually go like all in on it. So I was like, no, hockey 0, music 10. Um, and kind of shortly after that, yeah, I was like, this is what I want to be doing. And so I just did it all the time and did everything. I like went to school. And then slowly, I think figured out the kind of, I think every songwriter, every musician is trying to find their path of what maybe songwriting, what being an artist like means to them, or how it actually looks, you know,
Mhm.
in their life. And so I think since I was 19 years old, I've been like figuring out like what kind of like quote doing music looks like in my life. Um,
Right.
and that's like a fascinating, that's kind of like a fascinating trajectory. And I love that process as much as I kind of love, writing songs and every part of it. So
Mhm. What did you go to school for? You said you went to school for music. Was it like just like a music education? Like what would you go for?
I went to school at Grant McEwen College in Edmonton,
Okay.
studied jazz performance on the guitar.
Oh
So
wow.
So it's like, a Friday Night Lights character, like studying jazz performance on the guitar. Like that. Um, yeah. So I studied that there, but it wasn't my total, it was my total bag. And I knew that. I was like, I don't want to play jazz.
hmm
And so I was
But
kind of doing like open mics and putting on shows while like everyone was kind of playing like these like, jazzy licks. And I was kind of like
yeah.
jazz licks, but I was like, this is dumb and has no future. I
But
was like,
to learn jazz guitar, I mean, that's like the hardest stuff to play, right? Jazz.
yeah, I think that made me actually, that was really good for me because it made me into a guitar player,
Uh-huh.
or maybe very proficient. I think, that mixed with just like playing shows and gigs and like playing live, those two things really, I think, made me into like a musician. If I didn't have kind of those experiences early on, I think
Uh-huh.
I'd be like a guy that was embarrassed to play the guitar or sing. Whereas
Right.
yeah,
Kind of give you the confidence
yep.
playing with them.
And the tools, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And the first record that you released was The Last of Our Mountains. Is that the first album you put out?
That is correct. And I congratulate you on that, because it's not easy to find what the first thing someone put out is sometimes.
You got to do a little research. Well, talk to me about that record. Was that all just independently done? And how was it recorded? Like, yeah, tell me the process there.
Yeah, that actually I did release like an EP before then, but that is
Oh,
the
okay.
record, that's why I was like, it is the first record. Actually, I was probably about 23 when I recorded that. I moved to Victoria, British Columbia.
Mhm.
Uh, and I just was like, I'm making a record. I was like, I have these songs, and at that time, I probably had like, I think I had like 7 songs.
Uh-huh.
I like wrote another song while we were recording the record, and I was like, this is going on the record. So it's only 8 songs long. Uh, but I kind of was, yeah, I was on the West Coast in a new spot. I was kind of like, when you move to a new, state or like city or something,
Mhm.
like, let's do this out here. And so I'm really glad that I kind of hunted down a producer, and I think this was recorded maybe in 2000, I think 10, and then released in 2011. And
Okay.
I'm fascinated right now with like how, because I'm so into like production myself these days.
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago it was so different. So then I was like, I need to find a producer, someone who can like record this stuff well. And I remember going to this show, this artist Hannah Georges, who now lives maybe in Toronto, Canadian artist, and she put out this EP called The Beat Stuff. I saw one of her shows and I was like, this is great. And like she is a renowned Canadian artist now. She toured a bunch with The National on their last record.
Wow.
And I remember hearing this album. I was like, this is good stuff. So I like basically just looked up who produced this, and I had this guy named Winston, asked a few people about it, and they're like, yeah, he's good. Da, da, da. And then I ended up just doing kind of this EP, which turned into an album with this guy Winston. His name is actually Ryan Hochschild. He's from Vancouver, and he was really like one of, kind of this one producer or kind of, formative helper along the way for me, which I haven't talked to Ryan in the last few years, but I'm thankful that he did a good job on this album. And really, the further I've got away from this, am very thankful that he kind of helped guide me in this first album.
Yeah. And you had a song on that record that did really, really well too.
The song "The Country Where I Came From."
Or I mean, Two of Us also.
Oh, Two of Us, yes. Yeah, there's a song called Two of Us and a song called The Country I Came From, which and those kind of are two like early Mike Edel songs that have stood the test of time. They still sound a little bit older dated to me, now in 2020, but they are good songs, and they have kind of a little bit of that, that magic in them. Yep.
Right. Yeah. Like with like Two of Us, for example, I mean, it's got almost 1 million plays on Spotify. A song like that, like, did you see like, I mean, even with The Country You Came From too, a lot of that one has over 500,000.
Yeah.
Like with those two songs, like, did you start seeing that pretty quickly after you put the record out, or was it like, what do you know what happened to really kind of push those two songs, or was it just organic growth?
I think those so the song Two of Us, for example, it's like, right, it's kind of this like acoustic guitar-y like love song thing.
Sure.
And as much as like I'm really not trying to write some of those songs like these days, the song's very honest. I know I have all these pictures in my mind what it's about, like, and I think you just kind of hit it with some songs, just it happens accidentally almost. And that one, it's easy to play. Anyone can kind of cover it. If I could pick a good guitar and I could play you the whole song right now, because it's pretty easy.
Okay.
It's a little bit like sing-alongy. By the way, it's my birthday today.
Happy birthday.
I'm like
getting
really,
birthday calls like left and right.
I've been getting birthday things, and I've been doing well not getting them.
That's awesome though. Well, happy birthday. I'm sorry you have to spend it here with me.
I was looking forward to it. The song Two of Us, though, easy to play, love song. Oh man, I'm getting the birthday calls right now like crazy. I wish they'd stop. Because oh man, I don't know. Sometimes the internet, you run into these problems. It's your birthday.
It's all good, man. It's all good.
Birthday, your brother-in-law is just war dialing you. Hey, I am really fascinated though with how songs kind of like why songs and how songs will do well. So
right.
Naturally, I think it's a good song. And I played it at a bunch of people's like weddings probably. So when I was like 24 years old, and the first wave of people that I knew were getting married, it'd be like, Mike Edel's playing Two of Us at their wedding or something. That's what I see. And I think when, if you're looking at like Spotify or something, the weird thing is that song came out in 2011. Spotify came out in 2015.
Right. It wasn't even out yet. So
the song's 4 years old, and like it somehow randomly goes up on Spotify while everyone's listening to RDO in 2014 because that was the best platform of choice. And I think naturally people are like gonna go listen to, Two of Us or The Country Where I Came From when they're first on Spotify. And I think when you look on Spotify, for example, that would be like the reason that they are, both those songs are good songs and kind of, songs someone could probably name of mine if they've been a follower or fan for, a while. But I think naturally those kind of, quintessential songs from an artist kind of will find their way to the top a little bit.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've never thought of it that way. Like that Spotify really didn't come out. It's only been around for about 5, 6 years.
It's wild when you think of that. Yeah.
Because even like if you look up, I don't know, like I guess it's just from playlists. Because I was gonna say if you look up like Journey or something, their songs are gonna still have like 26 million plays or something obscene like that. But and it's like how many Journey fans are really going back and listening to this stuff on Spotify? But I guess it would be playlists or of the
Yeah.
something.
And just like, yeah, like, you think of when on Friday Night Lights, they like pump up the pregame, like, the pregame playlist there, they're spinning CDs, back in when they're
Yeah.
in 2015. But now if it would be every Friday Night Lights across America these days, they're putting on the Journey Spotify playlist when they're doing the pregame music.
Yeah, it's bizarre to think about it like that, though. It's like,
That's where those 26 million plays are coming from.
yeah, I know it's crazy. I mean, I don't know. I was just throwing up an example, but it's like you wouldn't think an artist like that or a song. Or I'm trying to think of somebody like that you would turn on your radio and if you listen to the classic rock station for 10 minutes, you'll hear, a Journey or a Zeppelin, like, and just to see and just going on those pages and knowing that I've never been to Led Zeppelin's page on Spotify, to be honest. And I'm sure if I went there, Stairway to Heaven would have like almost 1 billion plays, it's just crazy.
And like, what does on Blink 182's Spotify page, All the Small Things is number one.
It's, yeah, which is crazy, but it's probably just, I mean, it's just off the playlist. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, that's crazy though, to have your song, like you said, it was 5 years old 4 years old when that came out. With that, you put out India Seattle in 2015 when Spotify was around. Tell me about that record.
Yeah. Well, that in relation to, so I was in Canada then, actually, when that record came out, which was April 2015, April 2015. Spotify was not in Canada.
Oh, I was just kidding because I said it came out in 2015.
No, it did, but no, Spotify was out in the United States.
But how is it not in Canada? That doesn't make sense to me. That's crazy.
We gotta shift our minds and be like, what was 2015 like? In music, there's this whole like territory thing, and it was way less like, oh, the internet. And when I put out India Seattle in 2015, it was on this label called Cordova Bay Records, and we put the album out. Like, think of this, we put the album out in Canada in April 2015, but it was not out in the United States until October 2015, because that's when it came out, and we toured. And then we had like, distribution and stuff, but it was not like in 2015, we were still like, oh, get this on iTunes. And, like, streaming was just becoming a thing, but it was not dominated by like Spotify and Apple Music or something. Literally, I was listening to RDO, which was the service that I first started on, which was
which was like a Pandora-ish thing, right?
It was actually way more social than Spotify. So your algorithms, your algorithms actually on RDO, I remember really liking this. You could kind of like select your like friends, but your algorithms were like, oh, what are your friends listening to right now? So if you went and logged on to RDO, you wouldn't just kind of get what like RDO is shoving down your throat necessarily. Your kind of, say, like release radar playlist, it would more be like, what is your community of friends listening to right now?
Oh, that's cool. So if we were friends on there and you were playing, some band that I never heard of, and I'm like, oh, Mike's listening to, I wonder I know that he likes a lot of the same records as I do. I wonder who this band is that he's listening to, and then I could go check it out.
Yeah. And then, say if you had 100 friends on there, well, it would be like the algorithms would push like, oh, what kind of everybody was listening to kind of more to the top. And it was less of like, it was just more kind of like a social music experience, less of just like the huge pipeline of, everything coming
Yeah.
down your throat, sort of, or it was less like your personal listening preferences and more the listening preferences of your community. And
Mm-hmm.
that was one thing that I thought was really cool that we don't, that kind of got, it was like the song that got missed on a record and never was the hit, but it's like, it was such a gem. So that was the feature of streaming. That was a gem that didn't really,
Yeah, it didn't really stick around.
stick around, that, and Spotify is not, they have not done something like that's worked or something that, yeah.
No, they don't even. I don't think they even care to try. It's like
More into your
they're just a playlist thing.
yeah. So
Yeah, it's bizarre. But like with India Seattle, you said that that record got distribution in the States, and you were signed on that album. Were you signed on the first record?
no.
Okay, well, so getting signed, that must have been a big moment for you.
Yeah, I think it was like, I'm sort of like jack of all trades guy a little bit. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
even more so now that I like all parts, I love, writing songs and making records, but I also love like how music gets out there, and like it's all fascinating to me. So I was looking just for, a community of people, like someone to like rally around this music. And so this label, Quarter of the Bay Records, who are local to Victoria, BC,
Mm-hmm.
they put out India Seattle with me, and it was I learned a lot from them, and there was some good stuff that happened on that record and stuff like that. And I still, some of the people associated with the label there, I still like, I still do stuff with, or talk to them or work with them and stuff. So it was, yeah, I think, I have pretty tempered expectations. I talk to a lot of artists these days, and sometimes people are like, oh, like it would be so cool to be signed to a label.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, why do you want to be signed to a label or something? Because I think for me that was a really good experience. But I actually, then they only put out one of my records,
Hmm.
and the next record I didn't put it out with the label. Yeah, which was the album Thresholds.
Okay, and was there a reason behind that, or did you only sign a one album deal with them, or?
It was like, yeah, it was like, it was nuanced.
Okay.
But the album Threshold, so I had kind of got to know Chris Walla, who
Oh,
made
wow, Death Cab.
yeah. And so I started making this record with Chris Walla.
How
And so
did you how did you meet him? Like, that's a pretty good get.
yeah, actually, I originally met him just at a bar in Victoria at a show, and he was
Huh.
doing pre-production for Tegan and Sarah's album The Con. This would have been 20, maybe like
Wow.
2012 or something. And I was like, that's Chris Walla. And he's just standing like on a
Ye
Tuesday night at this band called Ann Horse at the show. And I knew the two of the guys that played live with Tegan and Sarah, Sean Huberts and Johnny Andrews at the time. They were friends of mine. And so
Oh, cool.
I don't know, somehow but I just saw Chris Walla and I was like, hey. And so I talked to him for a couple of minutes. And then that was that. And I like didn't see Walla for a few more years. And then fast forward to Rifflandia Music Festival in Victoria, 2014. Is Death Cab played their last show there, or Chris Walla played his last show with
Let's
Death.
show with Death Cab, because he's not in the band anymore. He left, right?
He's not in the band any longer. But that show, I was working for the festival, and I just like kind of like snuck backstage, and there's no one sitting backstage, and there's probably like 18,000 people at the show or something. And later, well, to me, he was like, yeah, nobody goes backstage at a Death Cab for Cutie show, and there's like no one back there. And I was just like, oh shit, like, and I remember just sitting down. I thought like, oh, maybe there'd be some people, like, and I just like sat down. And so like Walla played his final show with Death Cab, and I was just like for like 7 songs, I was just sitting on the ground, like right behind, like right at the back of the stage. And it was just like it was just a weird experience. And then it got even weirder. Well, so I actually like met Wall in the parking lot there after that show, and I was just like, love what you do, man. It's probably a crazy day. And he's like, yeah. And I just kind of hit him up 6 months after, and I was like, want to produce this record. I was like, oh, we met like in Victoria like twice or whatever. And he was like, we traded emails for a few months, and he was like, yeah, of course, yeah, sure, I'll produce this record. So it's kind of just a weird, like, it's kind of a weird sequence of events, especially when you meet someone from a band that is really formative or you love, and then they kind of become, they work on a project and produce your record and are, kind of become someone that you you really, is kind of your friend and your producer and someone.
Right. If your friend and somebody that you look up to, and somebody that you really,
Yeah. So that record Thresholds, I ended up not putting out on the label,
Okay.
because I wanted to do it differently.
Just do your own thing. And I love on Spotify you did like a little commentary thing with the record where you trying to talk about every song. You had your dad. Is he on the whole thing? I listened to the first couple and I couldn't tell if you kept him.
So my dad's name is Larry. He's
Uh-huh.
he's like if he was in Friday Night Lights, he would be the character Buddy Garrity, for all those Friday Night Lights fans out there. And he's a jovial Canadian farmer, and
Okay.
he's awesome. He called me for my birthday already this morning. And so I did this commentary for Thresholds with my dad, Larry, and he is currently 73 years old, so he's a little bit of an old man. And we just joshed around and talked about the songs, and he had a lot of funny things to say. And it's one of my favorite, most random things that I've done and is out in the public. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. Is he that's has he been, obviously he's been supportive of your music career. Did he know all the songs and the meanings behind them when you guys were kind of bantering about them, or was he like all new to him?
He definitely like listens to it. So yeah, he knows
He knows the songs, I would think,
he knows the
right?
song. He's not a lyrics guy, you know.
Okay.
He's a beat guy, and I think he's a people guy. So I think he liked to talk about the different people that like played on the.
Oh, on the songs and stuff.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, actually, I didn't play this solo, but like Chris Walla played this solo, and he was like, oh yeah, Chris Walla, and I was like, what's your favorite thing about Chris Walla, Larry? Oh, he's got a real nice haircut, like one liner, and so he's always, yeah, he always just has something to say.
That's
Yeah.
cool. That's really cool. Which brings us to your most recent project. And talk to me about what you got going on right now.
Yeah, so it is a record, the record En Masse.
Is it en masse? I was trying to figure if it was en masse, en masse.
The Canadian in me is like, I got it. We don't flinch when we see the, French words.
Okay.
But definitely my US radio guy was like, huh? He's just
Right.
like, what's this record called? But yeah, so this
say it one more time.
I say en masse.
En masse.
Yeah, kind of like en masse.
En masse. En masse.
Yeah.
I
En masse.
love it.
That's what I say to my friendly Americans. En masse translates to all together, and this record was supposed to be very collaborative. I co-wrote every song on the record. It came out November 20th, 2020, so recently, and every song on the album was co-written. It was the album is more about discovery through the process of collaboration. It's less about, it's less kind of like a bold artistic and personal statement, and it's more kind of like an item quest. And it was really fun to do. It was really fun to co-write a lot, and I really wanted to kind of lean into that side of things. Just to get in a room with so many friends, and then get in a room where we're making the record, and just kind of follow intuition and melody, and not worry so much about it, or not be so like careful. And like, I think sometimes you find really beautiful things by doing things. It's why people love like, the Frank Ocean records or something.
Mm-hmm.
A little like there's some like grit and some messiness, and it's magic sometimes. So I think for myself, that's not my natural intuition. So I really tried to lean into kind of this kind of like collaborative atmosphere, and trying to do things a little bit quicker, being more open to things, and doing things with a lot of different people. So that was kind of that was kind of en masse.
But with en masse, did you co-write every song with a different person, or was it done like, so did you have 8 different people on the record?
So it wasn't like, oh, every song is co-written with a different person. There's like a few people co-wrote on like 2 songs or something, but there is probably about 20 different like writers, on the 10 song album. Kind of, I remember looking at the Beyonce Lemonade, like, vinyl cover, because I bought it for my wife Last Christmas. And
Uh-huh.
if you look at the credits to that thing, sometimes there's like 12 different like writers on each song or something like that.
Oh yeah, I mean most of those massive pop songs, if you look them up on Wikipedia or whatever, it'll be like there'll be 12 names.
Yeah.
Like if
Yeah.
yeah, that's cool. That so you how were you able to like who did you decide on co-writing with? Were they people you already had known? Like
Yeah, this was a lot of actually people that I did know. So I didn't necessarily like, like sit back and be like, who are the
best.
most famous writers or I know or something. I just was like, I want to go write songs with people and my friends and anyone who's a good writer. And I know a lot of like great writers that are, not people that you would know or like,
Right, not household names
not
type.
household. Yeah. And I sort of like embrace that a little more because there are a lot of those people. There are just a lot of great writers out there and
Mhm.
that are not household names, and that's totally fine. So it was mostly, I would say, like a lot of like, a lot of friends and a lot of kind of, and these are friends that are like doing, half of them are doing music as a living, and the other half are like have artist projects that are great, and they're not necessarily doing it as a living, but they're great artists and great writers or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I just reached out kind of to, and that's like Marcus Paquin ended up mixing the record, and he's one guy I co-wrote with, and he was in Montreal, and so he worked on like a few of the Arcade Fire records and the National. He did a lot of work on that Trouble You'll Find Me record. So it's like
Wow.
Marcus is maybe the end of the spectrum where I knew him kind of as a producer, but I reached out and I just wanted to meet him and be in the same room as him to kind of see if we like jived or anything like that. So I went to Montreal and like we wrote 2 songs in 2 days, and then
Wow.
he ended up like mixing most of the record as well.
Okay.
It was just like, oh, Marcus is great. He's like super chill, a great collaborator, and yeah. So
That's awesome. That's really awesome. And with that, this record, you released it this year. Like, tell me how, like, where were you and where were you when everything shut down, the world shut down? Were you working on that record? Were you touring?
I was in Morocco.
You were in Morocco. Wow.
So this record, it started not as a COVID record. Uh,
Okay.
we recorded a bulk of the record, and then COVID happened. So when COVID on March the 13th, 2020, when COVID was really like, okay, like the borders are,
Yeah,
you
this is it.
I was making a music video for the first single, Hello Universe, in Morocco.
Oh, wow. So that
Yeah.
video oh, okay. Oh, you have a new video out now for Still Thinking About You, but okay. So for
Yeah.
that video, you were shooting it in Morocco
Yeah.
while everything was shutting down.
So one of my dear friends, his name's Jordan Clark. He's a great filmmaker, one of my best buds. And he's like, dude, I'm going to Morocco on this vacation with like my partner and like 5 friends. He's like, come on the whole vacation. And that's like kind of how he always goes. And he's a great hang. And I was like, okay, well, I got some stuff, but how about I come for 5 days and we make this video? And he's like, dude, totally. So I bought so we like planned this video out, and the video was, okay, we'll get a boom box. We've seen this kind of thing before, but we'll get a boom box. We'll put the new song on the tape, and you'll just go in the markets in Marrakesh and show everybody your new song and see if they like it. And it'll be
Yeah.
colorful and people will, loosen up.
Yeah.
So that's just what we did. We literally went to Morocco. I put this song on a tape on a boombox that I bought the boombox the night before off Craigslist in Seattle, and then the airline's flight, which I had
Was
bought.
it like one of the big ones? Like the big ghetto blasters?
Well, it's like, yeah, it fit in my suitcase. I actually bought
Oh.
the first one was too big, and then I had a little bit of a smaller one. So this is a General Electric. It was from 1981. Bought off this guy on Craigslist. I basically went over there with like a suitcase and like a couple t-shirts.
Uh-huh.
And we just started like filming this music video. It was pretty run and gun, which is how I prefer to do music videos. I don't know if I love like kind of huge productions or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went over there, and I remember like going into Morocco and filling out like, oh no, I don't have this new coronavirus thing on about March the 8th. And then we finished it, and I was flying back to Seattle from Morocco and flying through Paris. And I remember I was buying some macaroons from this little French lady, and she's
Uh-huh.
like, your president is closing the borders at midnight tonight. And that was the first time I think I actually took coronavirus seriously. What
Yeah.
the French lady was like, yeah, the borders are closing, all the flights are canceled. And the airport felt weird that day. And that was March 12th.
Wow.
And so I like flew home and it was just like becoming kind of a thing. And so
Uh-huh.
I kind of like got in before, got in before anything.
Yeah, right under
Yeah.
the line there. Wow.
Yeah. So that was kind of, that was where I was when COVID hit. I was making my way back from Morocco shooting that Hello Universe video.
That's crazy. And then you got home and the world shut down. Yeah, you finished the record, obviously. You put it out. Was it strange putting out that album during these interesting times?
Yeah, I think during these quote unprecedented times, I think music has changed and has changed a lot in the last 9 months, and it
Mhm.
is changing at a rapid pace. Um, I'm really stoked that I had I'm not the person that's gonna be like, oh shoot, I just gotta like I'm just gonna sit in my house for 9 months and then see what I'll do. I was like, okay, I got this record. I'm like, who knows what's gonna happen? Let's put it out. Has been more my philosophy than like let's wait it out.
Right, right. Okay.
And I think that's more you see like Donovan Woods, who's been a guest in the show, like he kind of did a COVID record, and
Yeah, he did.
right, he basically did his record's a COVID record. My record is not really a COVID record, and it was like done really remotely, or even take like Taylor Swift's 2 albums or something. Those are
Right.
everybody's kind of into the put it out rather than wait it out kind of thing. So I am really glad I put it out. Um, it's yeah, it almost would have been funner to like actually just make a COVID record and be like, this is a COVID record. Like
Right, right.
Taylor Swift's, it's almost a license to put out like, something that you don't know.
Never would have done. You're right.
Um,
And
whereas
Taylor Swift's records, those are the two best things she's ever done in her whole life. In my opinion,
yeah,
I'm a huge fan of hers. And when I heard those, I was like, even the newer one,
yeah,
Evermore, is even better than the other one. I was like, whoa.
yeah, it's a little more like they kind of let their hair down. Like
Oh yeah.
their hair was not down. It was like in a tight bun for that first one. It was like don't make the music too loud because it's got to be folky and it's
Right. We have to try to
oh,
make it as hip as we can. We have Bon Iver on the album.
like, yeah, like Aaron Dessner, like you got to turn all the high frequencies down like you do.
Right, right.
And whereas the newer one, Evermore, it feels a little bit freer, and there's some
Right. And I feel like it has a little bit more of the Taylor blend of like pop. It has a little more of the pop to it, which I like the melodic pieces and kind of those melodies. Whereas Folklore was like, whoa, like what is she like? This is crazy. She's doing this type of a record.
yeah. So I don't those 2 records feel very much like COVID records.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I think presently I would be excited to. I think music is changing where people will do records like that, even like a big artist or something. People are going to release more music more often, and it's going to be less. It's going to be less like, oh, there's a new this record in 3 months, and it's going
Right.
to be like, oh, here's the single records out in a month or something, or not everybody can drop a record like Taylor Swift, but I think
Right.
things are going to be happening even you know the line between content and a record is going to be blurred even more.
Uh-huh.
And I'm kind of, in some ways I lament that, but in some ways I'm also excited about that. So I'm like, I've got way more into production the last like 3 months.
Hmm.
um, I'm really excited to kind of like basically make a COVID record, but like in a year.
I was gonna say, like you're talking about making a COVID record. I was gonna say, well, you still have time, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think just more actually what I'm hoping to do actually is my wife and I are hoping to move into a van and play
Oh wow.
backyard shows starting kind of in the spring summer, so it's kind of a little more COVID safe and support this record en masse. Normally like you'd put the record out and within like 3 weeks or 4 weeks you'd
Yeah,
be on
tour
tour.
it or
Yeah, and like we had, I have had a Germany tour totally set up for this record, and like was just kind of starting to book we were just starting to kind of like put the Canadian and like US dates on paper when COVID happened. So now I think I'm going to continue to support this record, but with backyard van life shows. Um, and I'm hoping maybe I'll record a few van versions, a few acoustic
Oh, cool.
but they'll be van versions. So
You could do van live streams too.
yes, I think
like a backyard / like you could live stream your backyard show.
Yeah, maybe from your backyard.
You could come play in my backyard.
Yeah,
add it to your calendar. We're in San Diego.
Yeah, San Diego proper.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually have last time I was in San Diego. There's some friends of mine own a coffee shop called Communal Coffee. It's in There's one in North Park and one in South Park.
Okay.
And so we played like kind of an outdoor, like, like lights hanging and like,
sure.
Kind of like 60 people in the coffee shop, like backyard patio.
That's rad.
Kind of like played that in San Diego there. So I think music is going to go, for me, that's kind of the idea. Plans change so fast these days, but the kind of idea would be to do something like that and probably, blur the line between like, oh, the next single and like content or something. Mm-hmm. And that's really freeing actually as someone who's creative, because I just like making things. I love to like, do a smaller project and then put it out and then have that be thing and then move to the next project. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe it'll be, and this is from doing like a record with Chris Walla, which is like we spent like 12 months on this record, and it was like, there's more people and it's like a little more expensive and
right
now it feels like maybe the thing to do is hone your skills, hone your crafts, and make more of a bedroom record kind of these days.
Yeah, it's weird. Like that lo-fi, like DIY sound is definitely a thing right now for sure.
So maybe my next record will be like Frank Ocean meets Taylor Swift Evermore.
I'm excited. That sounds like a rad record, because I love Frank Ocean and Taylor Swift. That's amazing. Dude, Mike, you've been awesome. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for doing this. I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
I want to know if you have advice for aspiring artists.
Advice for aspiring artists. Man, I love aspiring artists. So just aspiring artists, just email me and like, let's talk. I think just continue to make what you're making and do what you're doing, and don't there will be many hurdles. Just jump over the hurdles and do the next thing, and don't let your mind get, don't let your mind slow you down. Just keep on doing the next thing. Keep learning. Yeah.